I read this book in 26 minutes and I'm feeling a little motivated. Actually, I'm feeling a lot motivated because I better understand Pidgin, Ghettocentricity, and Choreography. So let's get into it. This is 26-minute reads with me, Mya D. This reading vlog is kind of like my accountability space because in these videos, I share with you my takeaways from this book right here, which is my second book of my 26 to 26 reading challenge, where I'm reading 26 minutes per day. So this is more like slow reading rather than speed reading. And it's also a way of pouring into myself, a way of offering myself some self-love and an investment into myself, giving myself some consistency in an ever-changing world. And I hope that feels like an invitation for you to join me along in this process by reading along with me and dropping some comments down there in that comment section so that there's an actual dialogue going on. Well, this week I read pages 46 through 86 of Dancing the Afrofuture by Dr. Halifu Osumari. And let's get into these takeaways. Let me get my notes. Takeaway number one is Pidgin. Pidgin spelled P-I-D-G-I-N, not the bird. And on page 71 of the book, we find these words, and I quote, "She utilizes a humorous use of local Pidgin, English, familiar to my students, with which they could really identify," end quote. These words are actually found in the On the Road to My Doctorate section of the book and describe the materials that Dr. Halifu Osumari uses in one of her courses. The course is titled The American Experience and Diversity in American Life. Now, if you've read Dancing in Blackness, which was the predecessor to this book, then you already understand how amazing Dr. Osumari is in relation to her movement, in relation to her presence at some of these very instrumental times in dance history and in American history. So what is amazing about reading this second book is that you begin to become more familiar with Dr. Osumari as an educator. This book actually demonstrates culturally responsive teaching, which is serendipitous, I guess, because the first book of this challenge was Culturally Responsive Teaching by Geneva Gay. So in that book, Gay suggests using a combination of books, mixed media, and the use of language to create culturally responsive teaching practices and experiences inside of the classroom. And Gay even gave us an example of how she uses her language in class to give students the experience of what they might experience when they become teachers and educators in a school system. To investigate the diversity within the American experience, Dr. Osumari's curriculum includes a number of books. One of them is Susan Powers' The Grass Dancer, that speaks about Swi heritage and experience. Another is Toni Morrison's Song of Solomon, that speaks about the African American experience. And she offers this third book, which is called The Wild Meat and Bully Burgers. It's by Louise Yamanka, and it speaks of that Japanese Hawaiian experience. And it's that book, that third book, where the students find that connection to the language. That's what that quote identifies, their connection to the use of Pidgin in that third book. This serves as an example that sometimes we, as educators, might be in front of a group of students that are from a different community than us, right? And it reminds us that this is a wonderful time to use something that relates to them and use that as a bridge into what we want to teach, right? So that bridge of understanding of concepts can be built through intentional curation of resources in the classroom. Dr. Osumari uses a combination of texts that spoke to different communities of the American population, allowing students to interrogate the complexities of being American. The students respond to that third text and its use of, almost stuttered over my words, and its use of Pidgin English as a reminder that The function of language is to communicate knowledge. And the appropriate form of language to use is one that will be received by the listener. And it can sometimes serve as an entry point into learning other forms of language. As we step into takeaway number 2, I feel like this is a great time to say that while I am a dancer, an educator, and curriculum writer, I am not the know-all be-all for this book. I'm simply providing a space of dialogue so that we can all be better educators for those that are in front of us and those coming after us. As we step into takeaway number 2, which is ghettocentricity. Let's get into that one. On page 77, within the section called Hip Hop as My Dissertation, we find these words. As such, they are entering the continuum of Black music exportation at a certain historical juncture where ghettocentricity and the thug image are central, end quote. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. Reading enhances my vocabulary. I come across terms that I've never heard of before, or I at times get a deeper understanding of those words because it's of the way that it's used in the books. The word of the day is ghettocentricity, and I welcome you to leave your thoughts in the comments below about the difference between ghettocentricity and Afrocentricity. During her dissertation studies, the writer interviews a number of consumers, so hip-hop consumers and artisans, meaning professional hip-hop artists is how I'm going to define artisans in this case. While the ghettocentricity and hip-hop thug image were more appealing to some of the Hawaiian hip-hop high school consumers, more alignment was found between the responses of Oakland high school students and the professional hip-hop artisans in Hawaii, which also reminded me of the importance of discipline when you're studying a thing that is not in close proximity for you. So for example, as a practitioner of West African dance, it is important for me to find conferences that are focused on that thing and go to West Africa because I'm not in proximity of the form that I'm studying, right? Being away from the source of study can result in receiving a diluted version of the content. So you want to, when possible, get into close proximity of it. Now, getting back to that, hip hop, right? Hip hop is a global phenomenon. We agree? Let me know in the comments below. It's a global phenomenon that can be experienced in many parts of the world. Its global consumption is impacted by media, which does not always leave space for a deep understanding and appreciation of the hip hop culture. So let's pull back for a second. Let's use another example of, let's pull back for a second. Let me give you these examples. There are many people in the world that can cook, but there are fewer people that are professional chefs, right? There are many people that drive, but there are fewer people that are professional drivers. So to become an artisan of a craft, it requires a deeper level of studying, right? Hence that intentional placing myself in proximity of the thing that I'm studying. The professional hip hop artists in Hawaii demonstrated the sometimes fifth pillar of hip hop, which is knowledge. I'm going to give another quote because Dr. Osumari is amazing. And Dr. Osumari sometimes says it way better than I could even try to say it. Here we go. This led me to conclude that artists in the global sphere, even though removed from urban Black America, do their background homework and become knowledgeable about rap's derivative sampling approach from previous Black musical styles, end quote. So the hip hop artisans in Hawaii are still doing their due diligence to understand the history, the cyclical nature of the thing, right? I believe this derivative sampling serves as a demonstration of both the Adinkra Sankofa, which means to go back and fetch it, mentioned earlier in the book, and Afrofuturism. And while it is the ghettocentricity and that thug image that might be appealing to the consumer, It's the charge and the beauty of the artist to carry, the history into the future. I'm gonna say that again. It is the charge and the beauty of the artist to carry history into the future. So similar to the court dancers that demonstrate a history of a society through their movement and gestures, the professional hip hop artist demonstrates the history of hip hop through their power moves and their powerful lyrics. Ooh. Takeaway number 3 is choreography. So my father, Mya D Jr., was a performative writer, and he once wrote a piece called Life as Performance Art. And I think that is why this next quote stood out to me. On page 85, we find these words. I began to comprehend how knowing what to say at the right time, in the parentheses, the author writes rhythm, in the right way, in parentheses, shape and dynamic, and in the correct space, in parentheses, space, is what life is all about. So for those of you who might be a little less familiar with dance, that rhythm, shape, space, those are the elements of dance, what makes up dance. So this is like a lead way into how dancing through life as performance art. The author goes on to say that they began to grasp the idea of the grand choreography of life, the grand choreography of life. The dancing body is a thinking body that reinforces proprioceptive sensory, giving you a better understanding of your body in relation to time and space. On a granular, tangible level, this is something as simple as understanding how far I can move before I bump into something, right? Like I can move my arm right here, even if I'm not looking at it, and not bump into the sofa. But on a larger scale, in a more abstract way, this can be deep understandings of the politics and the processes around you. As the author suggests in that previous quote. When asked what my strongest skills are, I say adaptability, active listening, and collaboration, all of which are skills that have been strengthened through my life as an artist and have given me space to grow and a space to be impactful in the world of academia. But what say you? What are some skills you've learned through dance or through the arts, and how do you make use of them in your non-art spaces? Let me know in the comments below. I'm always looking for another book to read, so feel free to drop the title of a book in those comments below, or just drop a book emoji so that I know that you were here with me. This has been 26-Minute Reads with me, Mya D. Remember to check out those great things in the details down there. Some good stuff down there. And also remember to like and subscribe if you liked this video or found it interesting in any other kind of way. Stay blessed, spread a good word, and I'll see you again soon.